Jennifer Lopez's journey is the kind of story that proves dreams stitched with fire, pain, and relentless hunger can take a person from the darkest alley of despair to the brightest lights of global fame. And while the world now sees her draped in glamour, luxury, and unmatched influence, the story behind that glitter is carved with rejection, homelessness, sacrifice, and an unshakable will that refused to break even when everything else around her did. Born in the Bronx, a place known more for its struggle than its opportunity, Jennifer Lynn Lopez wasn't handed success. She built it with every bruise on her feet, every tear soaked into her pillow, and every battle she faced both in the world and within herself. And growing up in a modest Puerto Rican household, she learned the value of work early as her parents, David and Guadalupe, instilled in her a sense of responsibility and grit. Yet even they couldn't fully understand the scale of her vision. For when Jennifer expressed her dream of becoming a performer, not just any performer but one who would conquer the world, it was met with fear, not malice, just a parental worry rooted in realism that often kills the spirit of big dreamers. And when she chose to follow her heart and pursue dance and acting rather than settle into a secure life, it created tension so deep in her family that she eventually moved out, sleeping on a couch in a dance studio, homeless but never hopeless, alone but never without ambition, because something inside her whispered louder than doubt ever could, that she was born for something more. And in those cold nights of uncertainty, when the silence around her was deafening and the future looked fogged with failure, she danced anyway, practiced anyway, auditioned anyway, because for her, the pain of regret would have been far greater than the pain of discipline or poverty. And after relentless years of rejections, tiny roles, and being typecast, she finally broke through with the role of Selena Quintanilla in the 1997 biopic, Selena, a performance that not only honored the late Tejano singer but launched Jennifer into mainstream stardom. And yet, even then, she was still seen by many in the industry as just a pretty Latina face, underestimated and boxed in by stereotypes that didn't reflect her full potential. But she refused to be defined by narrow views, and instead broke every ceiling above her, becoming the first Latina to earn over $1 million for a film role, releasing her debut album On the 6 while simultaneously working on Hollywood movies, proving she wasn't just an actress or a singer or a dancer, but a multi-hyphenate powerhouse who could not only perform but dominate across industries. And while success came pouring in, so did scrutiny, and Jennifer's love life, her fashion choices, her career moves, all were dissected in public with judgment sharp enough to wound. But she used every criticism as fuel, every heartbreak as a stepping stone, and every failure as a classroom, learning, evolving, and rising stronger each time. And whether it was the much-mocked relationship with Ben Affleck in the early 2000s, the media frenzy over her marriages, or the skepticism over her music and acting chops, Jennifer kept showing up, releasing hits like If You Had My Love, Jenny from the Block, and Let's Get Loud, while also acting in commercially successful and critically acclaimed movies, all while building a business empire in fashion, beauty, and production. And through her relentless work ethic, strategic mindset, and fearless creativity, she transformed herself from a performer into a global brand, becoming the only woman to simultaneously have a #1 movie and #1 album in the same week, launching her clothing line, fragrances, and skincare products into multi-million-dollar successes, and founding Meteoric Productions, a company that gave her control over the stories she wanted to tell, especially those that uplifted underrepresented voices. And with every move, Jennifer Lopez wasn't just breaking barriers. She was erasing them completely, becoming an icon not just for Latinas, not just for women, but for anyone who's ever been told they're too different, too ambitious, too much. And what makes her journey even more astonishing is not just the outward success, the sold-out tours, the Super Bowl halftime show, the starring roles, the record-breaking business deals, but the fact that she never let the fame corrupt her vision or her core values, still grounding herself in discipline, in family, in faith, and in the Bronx girl who dared to dream big even when she had nowhere to sleep. And as she aged, rather than fade out like the industry often forces women to, Jennifer grew more powerful, more influential, more respected, redefining what it means to be 40, 50, and beyond in a world obsessed with youth, proving that talent, grace, and strength have no expiration date. And with her historic performance at the presidential inauguration, her Netflix deals, her Vegas residency, and now her ventures into directing and producing, she isn't slowing down. She's just getting started. And if her story tells us anything, it's that the people who change the world are often the ones who've been overlooked, underestimated, and told no the most. And Jennifer Lopez, once a girl with a dream and no bed to sleep on, has become the definition of what it means to build your own throne, to dance through the fire, and to turn every no into a standing ovation. And her legacy isn't just in her awards, her albums, or her box office numbers. It's in every young person who looks at her and sees proof that you don't have to come from privilege to be powerful, that your past doesn't define your future, and that sometimes the greatest stars are born not in luxury, but in resilience, in grit, and in an unshakable belief that no matter how far down you start, you can rise, and rise again, until the world no longer sees you as just a performer, but as a force of nature, a blueprint for reinvention, and a walking reminder that power is not given, it's taken, earned, and built from scratch, just like she did, brick by brick, dance by dance, sacrifice by sacrifice. And today, whether she's on stage, on screen, or simply being the mother her children adore, Jennifer Lopez stands as a monument of possibility, whispering to every dreamer watching, don't you dare give up, not because success is easy, but because it's possible, and because someone just like you made it all the way from a borrowed couch to the cover of Forbes, not by luck, not by chance, but by choosing every single day to believe in a dream no one else could see until the entire world had no choice but to see it too. And when Jennifer left home to chase her dreams, all she had was fire in her heart. No money, no safety net, no guarantees, just a will so fierce it could slice through storms. That first night she slept on the floor of a dance studio wasn't just a low point, it was a spark. A moment where something unshakable was born within her. She realized then that until the world sees your light, you must burn bright enough to clear your own darkness. While other girls her age were out partying or vacationing, Jennifer was bandaging the blisters on her feet and heading back to rehearsals. She was getting rejected from auditions daily, but every no became another brushstroke on the canvas of her dream. When she finally landed a spot as a background dancer on tour, nobody could have guessed that this same girl would one day light up the world stage. But she knew, because she had already seen herself there, in her mind, in her heart, long before the world did. And that vision pulled her through every sleepless night, every bruise, every doubt, because she was never waiting for permission. She was preparing for destiny. When the world started labeling her a glamour icon, Jennifer understood that true power isn't just about being seen, it's about controlling your own story. That's why she launched her own production company, started business ventures, and created platforms where Latinx artists could finally see themselves not just as background characters but as leading stars. She wasn't just building for herself, she was paving the way for every unheard voice that Hollywood left behind. And when people say Jennifer Lopez became a brand, they're not just talking about perfumes, music, or movies, they're talking about a movement. A symbol of possibility. When she starred in bold projects like Hustlers or took the Super Bowl stage and celebrated Latin culture on a global front, she wasn't just performing. She was representing, proving that inclusion isn't a trend, it's a responsibility. And she carried that responsibility with honor, bravery, and style. And today, as she stands among the world's most powerful celebrities, that same hunger still burns in her eyes. The hunger of the girl who once had nowhere to sleep but never stopped dreaming. The only difference now is that she doesn't just have a dream. She has tools, platforms, and a voice strong enough to awaken millions who think their story doesn't matter. When she looks at her children or takes the stage to honor her past, she remembers that real success isn't about winning for yourself. It's about fighting for others who find their courage through your journey. Jennifer Lopez is living proof that it doesn't matter where you come from. If your intention is pure, your drive relentless, and your work ethic undeniable, there is no wall too high to break down. Because a real superstar is not someone who had everything, but someone who built something from nothing, and kept building, even when the world told her she shouldn't. What makes Jennifer's story even more awe-inspiring is that even at the top, she never allowed herself to get comfortable. She kept evolving, kept pushing, kept chasing new mountains to climb. While others slowed down or faded after reaching fame, Jennifer reignited her flame every time. Through dance, through music, through film, and through reinvention. She refused to let the industry define her by her age, her background, or her past. Instead, she redefined the industry by showing that excellence has no expiration date. In her 40s and 50s, she performed with more energy and purpose than most artists half her age. Not to prove anything to the world, but to honor the fire that still lived inside her. Because for Jennifer, success wasn't a destination, it was a commitment. A promise to never stop being excellent. A promise to her younger self, the one who once cried on a studio floor, that every tear and sacrifice would someday mean something far bigger than she could imagine. She became more than an entertainer. She became a cultural force. Not just because of her talent, but because of the way she carried herself. With grace in the face of rumors. With strength through heartbreak. With dignity through constant scrutiny. And behind all the makeup, lights, and awards was a woman who never forgot who she was or where she came from. She kept her roots in the Bronx, not just as a memory but as fuel, always remembering the little girl who danced in her bedroom mirror and dared to believe she could shine on the biggest stages in the world. And with each year, Jennifer became more than just an artist. She became a mirror for others, reflecting what's possible when you refuse to quit. Her life told millions of people, especially young girls, especially Latinas, that they could dream wildly, work fiercely, and still hold their heads high when the world tried to pull them down. And maybe that's her greatest legacy. Not the records broken, not the roles played, not even the empires built, but the permission she gave others to be powerful, bold, and unapologetically themselves. Jennifer Lopez showed us that your worth isn't determined by where you start, but by how deeply you believe in where you're going. That being underestimated can be a gift if you let it drive you. That every time someone says, "You can't," you get to respond with, "Watch me." She became a living lesson that failure is not the end. It's the beginning of reinvention. And now, every stage she steps on, every business she launches, every story she tells is no longer just about her. It's about us all. About the fire we carry. The dreams we protect. The mountains we're still climbing. And if Jennifer could rise from a studio floor with no place to sleep to the most powerful woman in entertainment, then maybe, just maybe, anything really is possible for those brave enough to keep going.